Yeah, my eyes are a little bit or they're
Good evening, everybody. We'll call the meeting for our council to order, and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Melissa, please.
Councilmember Boucher?
Here.
Councilmember Woodward?
Here.
Councilmember Brunner will be absent this evening. Councilmember Jenks?
Here.
Councilmember Menon? Here. Councilmember Durr?
Here.
And Council President Long.
Here. There was an executive session before tonight's meeting to discuss personnel and matters of litigation. We have a little bit of an insert here before our public comments. Mayor Levering would like to say a few words on some matters from Harrisburg.
I'd like to make an announcement that the manner in which the borough conducts these meetings will be changed a little bit in the future. This was a result of a recently passed bit of legislation in Harrisburg, passed nearly unanimously from what I'm told in both the House and the Senate, and was signed by Governor Wolf on June the 30th. To be effective within 60 days. It's our intention to have it basically in operation well before that 60 days. This does not in any way suggest that the borough was doing anything improperly in the past. This is effective for all levels of government in the Commonwealth, state government, and all of its committee meetings and so on, as well as county and municipal governments. What it will entail is doing a more detailed agenda. Our regular agenda, which has always highlighted the various reports that are to be given, is now going to be enhanced and expanded to include action items and some descriptions as need be. We are in the process of finalizing what exactly the level of detail is going to be necessary. But going forward, starting no later than September, it's our intention, as I mentioned, to do it prior to that. We will be enhancing the agenda and could make things a little bit more complicated in the sense that if there's something that happens late, it would have to be voted on to amend the agenda before that item is going to be addressed. So it's a new way of doing business, but it's applicable to every level of government across the state of Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Thank you. I will take public comments.
Nobody? Just me? I thought you wanted to speak. Do you want to speak? Oh, okay. Sorry. I have to speak. Gotcha. Okay.
Sorry. Adrian Jedick, 48 Cardinal Road. I'm speaking here today once again to protest against the persistent censoring, bigotry, and discrimination that goes on at Wyomissing meetings. On June 28th, the Infrastructure Committee, I asked to speak regarding the notice of violation that was issued to us by Craft Codes and displayed on screen. Once again, the councilman spoke over me and prevented me from making my point. I was not even allowed to say one sentence before I was completely shut down. I got a quote from you from the 1964 U.S. Supreme Court of New York Times versus Sullivan. A profound national commitment to the principle that debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, and wide open, and that it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. My comments are certainly critical of this government, may be caustic sometimes, but they are never done with malice. In fact, my calling out the incompetency and corruption for more than 2 years has helped bring a plethora of notable improvements. Just recently, I called out the lack of meaning of our agendas. I guess it takes Governor Wolf to fix that. So, but Councilman Snowflake Jenks even went so far to say he is fed up with my criticism and that I should stop. Well, I got news for you, Bill. Your powers do not supersede the US Constitution. This is my time to speak, not yours. Furthermore, when Tammy Swaggart spoke last council meeting, she was allowed to finish and even invited to speak again at Fire and Police freely and uninterrupted by being placed on the agenda that day. Why is this treatment reserved only for American-born residents? Just like me, Mr. Krytoyarski, who is an immigrant Russian, was treated with the same xenophobic attitude, dismissed and canceled when he brought to your attention a perfectly valid issue that to this day has not been resolved. Why aren't the issues of immigrants worthy of being placed on the agenda? McCarthy Engineering made a study and an ordinance was drafted by the solicitor only to be voted down by council. It was a perfectly good ordinance based on actual facts, measurements, and solid engineering principles. Councilman James, may I reply to you that I am a Wyomissing taxpayer and I am fed up with your discriminatory and censoring practices and you should stop. Councilman Woodward, I have lived in many countries, worked as an engineer in 4 countries including US. Worked as a math teacher and a stay-home dad while we raised 2 wonderful daughters. I have always been a good citizen, and there is plenty of evidence of that in our past. So I must logically conclude that your unfavorable opinion of me is solely based on your self-confessed bigotry. I hereby request to be placed on the agenda at next infrastructure meeting. The persistent abuses of office by officials need to stop, and yes, Councilman Durr, there is something you can do about it, but only if you're really prepared to listen. Thank you.
Anyone else have any public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed with the meeting. At this particular time, would there be a councilman willing to put a motion to accept and comply with Senate Bill number 554, session of 2021, in regards to the agenda matters of public meetings?
I'll make that motion.
The second? Second. With the motion, the second, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, so ordered. Thank you. May I have a motion, please, to receive all the reports from the committees?
So moved. Second.
And a second, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. First item of business is the council minutes from June 8, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of that meeting? All those in favor of accepting that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next item is the consulting engineers report. Mr. McCarthy.
Good evening, everyone.
Sir.
Good evening. Most everything in the report will be covered under the different committee reports. I'll give everyone an update on 4th Street. That's pretty much 99% complete. And we're just waiting to open the road up until Myers has done the work on Park Road and North Wyomissing and has the line striping in place. We don't want to open it and have people used to a traffic pattern and then change it again. So we thought for public safety, we should keep it closed a few more weeks, even though everything's done, just to not have a bunch of confusion, because they put the incorrect striping down on North Wyomissing Boulevard, so they're going to fix it.
Do we have a approximate date that'll open? Plus or minus
End of July.
end of
I
July?
think the 23rd was the date we heard from Myers.
I've had a couple of
Independent.
calls from some of the residents over Berkshire Heights at home, and they're asking when it's gonna open up. So if we tell them the end of July.
I would say the end of July. If it gets delayed that long, we'll eventually open, because we did have in our agreement with Equus and we'd have it open by July 31st. So I would feel confident saying July 31st, the road will be open whether the striping's in place or not on North Wyomissing Boulevard. And then we'll just have to put some temporary cones or something out there until they get it in place.
Okay, great, thank you. All those in favor of accepting?
Oh, and one more thing.
Oh, thanks, go ahead.
I took some pictures of the pedestrian bridge. The bridge should be open before dinner tomorrow. So, there's some of the rusted steel. And if you go down, you'll actually see a nice picture of, that is the bridge at the end of the day today. All the structural work's been completed, all the cross members have been welded in, new steel, new nailer board, and half, as you can see, half of the bridge decking and railing is on from the park side coming over. So should be right after lunch tomorrow, they'll have it done, and then Dane, our structural engineer who's running the project, will go out and give the final sign off to reopen it.
There was a contingency in case they went over the original cost thought. Did they have to go into that contingency?
We haven't finalized it. I knew that would come up tonight, so I was talking with Mike Thompson. He thinks that he's gonna be right around that, or possibly maybe 1,000 into the contingency. So the base number was 23,000 and change with a 4,000 contingency. So we should be somewhere 24,000 when we're wrapped up.
You guys did a great job on that. The timing is excellent. Guys, great job.
We need a new bridge.
What's that?
Do we need a new bridge?
Yes, that bridge is not gonna last forever. That reinforcement's good for 1.5 to 2 years. 'Cause we would have to spend a lot more money to replace that in kind.
250.
Right, or even, I mean, we would have, for that to last longer than that, we'd have to pull the whole steel beams out and replace them. So, but it's pretty solid. I mean, it's really solid. We basically reinforced the steel web, and then the two beams were never tied together before, so they should always be tied together with cross ties. So that with the reinforcement, and then the park side, actually all the steel in the abutment that was below earth was all rusted out, so we had to do some extra work in there, but we didn't have to reinforce the top of the beam, so that's why I didn't know the exact number, because we took some work out and added some work in. But we should be pretty close to that 23, 24 number.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the engineer's report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Police chief and mayor's report. Mayor Levering, Chief Phillips.
I have nothing further to add at this point, but the chief will highlight some items and then be ready to answer any questions you may have.
Good evening, everybody. For the month of June of 2021, we were available for 3,637 hours of service to the borough. We responded to 637 calls. Of our business districts, that accounted for 146 of those calls, or 22%. Our residential communities accounted for 39 calls, or 6% of the calls. As far as some interesting items, there's, under COVID-19, we are following the federal and state guidelines, and we are now open to the public. Those that are not vaccinated are required to wear a mask inside, but you can now come to the police department, walk in the door, and be met by our clerk while he's there, and get some service right away versus using the call button. For our 637 calls, it took approximately 5 minutes to arrive on location from the time of dispatch till arrival, and we were on a call for just under 32 minutes per average. This month, we concentrated our check of traffic on 1400 block of Parkside Drive South. We received some complaints there, so we did both the east and westbound directions. It's 25 miles per hour posted there. Our 85th percentile was found to be 26.82 in the eastbound lane and 26.28 in the westbound lane, so very similar. We did not find an issue there. Last month, I reported to you of a sexual assault that was reported to us on May 3rd. Say that we were able to make an arrest in that case. It was kind of a high profile. He may have done some other things that we're looking into as well. I've spoken about some graffiti that has occurred in the borough the last few months, and the county's graffiti abatement team, which the future of its existence was in question because of COVID and some retirements. It has been brought back by adult probation. They are running it again, and we've given locations, some places in the borough with some graffiti. They've actually started already. They painted on an avenue there at the overpass for the bypass. You can see it's fresh painted there, they covered it with the trees, so they are working on it. So it's something that I think we're gonna be able to use in the future instead of the borough maybe needing to come up with a solution for some of that. When you look at the percentage of time for the month, training was pretty high at 25%. So some of that training that we completed in the month of June was we completed our range training and that scenario-based training. We had officers attend training in our active shooter instructor that are going to take over for what I used to do for our officers and instructing the other officer on how to respond to an active threat type situation, stopping online child predators, report writing and case preparation. 2021 updates are now done by everybody in the department. Handgun instructor and research takes up some time, and our 2 new officers are going through all their training, so their time is logged as training. We've been dealing with an unruly tenant in the 1900 block of Penn Avenue. We've been there several times throughout the last month and a half now. In going to that location, we found that the residence is not properly registered with the borough. As far as it being a rental property, we've made contact with the borough management side, and steps have been taken to bring that property into compliance, and that tenant is currently in the process of being evicted. So we're hoping that that issue will resolve itself shortly. The Commonwealth has been inundated with fraudulent reports of workers' compensation fraud. We get about 2 cases of it a day. It's so prevalent that the Commonwealth has told us that if there hasn't been a loss of money, they don't want to do anything. They're too busy with it. So the cases that come in, we work out if there was an actual loss, if money was received or sent out by the state. And if it is, then we're trying to get some IP addresses for from where the submission was done for the report. So we haven't had any luck as of yet, but we haven't had too many that actual money being paid, so we're lucky there. And finally, at this section, when I first took over as chief, I said that I'm requiring our officers to take assignment numbers for all traffic stops. I said it was because I wanted to see who was being stopped. And 6 months into it, you can see where we're at here, where we have, this doesn't have anything to do with citations at this point. In my final report for the year, I will include as far as who cited, who's warned, that type of thing. But for just this stopping for 6 months in, we've stopped 2 Asian males, and there were females, 46 black males, 17 black females, 0 American Indian males and females, 0 Pacific Islander males and females, 191 white males, and 139 white females. As far as ethnicity goes, we've stopped 182 Hispanics and 212 non-Hispanics. So I think we're showing that we're not stopping people based on race. We don't have an issue there. Our top 10 calls is pretty much the same every month. Further alarms in our traffic violations tend to jockey between 1 and 2. Money's brought, accidents, we've had 32 for the month, 15 were 15 were reportable, 17 were non-reportable, there were 0 pedestrians and 0 fatalities. That brings us up to 261 for the year. We issued a total of 125 either citations, parking, or warnings throughout the month. We're up to 741 for the year. 25 arrests for the month, 24 were adults, 1 juvenile. We're up to 153 for the year. Dealt with 6 wanted subjects. We had 29 Part 1 and Part 2 offenses, which left 608 regular calls for service. Under the Part 1 and Part 2, you can see what those 29 were. We had 2 assaults, 2 burglaries, 7 larcenies, 2 vehicle thefts, 1 fraud, 1 vandalism, 1 weapons, 2 narcotics, 1 offense against family, 2 DUI, 2 drunkenness, 3 disorderlies, and 3 others for the 29. Well, I started doing some research on the statistics for numbers that we have from the FBI's crime stats. Pew Research did some studies on it with the 2019 numbers, which are the last numbers that are out there from the FBI. They're showing that 45.5% of violent crimes on average are solved, either arrest or cleared by exceptional means, and 17.2% of property crimes. So violence are going to be your part one, property crimes are your part two. You can see where we're at here for the year. We've got 100 part one incidents where we cleared 58, so we're at 58%. And part two, we've got 120 and we cleared 99, so we're at 82%. So when you do the combination, we're at 71.3. So we are well above the national average on what we're getting cleared for the department. We consume just over 745 gallons of fuel, just over 5,000 now for the year, and just under 10,000 miles for the month of travel, so we're just over 53,000 for the year. The fines and monies brought in, we totaled $66,027.40. The vast majority of that is the donation from the Wolf family for the body worn cameras. We are still eternally grateful for their generous donation to the borough police department over the years. Our time for service, it's pretty much unchanged, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's when we're getting the majority of our calls. Our arrests for the month, domestics were the highest, down to the disorderlies, the child abuse for one. That gives us your number 25 for the arrest. And the final pages are the reports generated by the program that we use for the traffic checks on Parkside Drive. Does anybody have any questions about the report or anything else?
Go ahead, Tony.
Two things that I saw under paid bills that I'm just curious about. The traffic signal maintenance from Telco for Route 422 to 22 northbound ramps, $4,800. And is that the spot I was going to ask you before about?
Yes.
So they must have fixed
They
it.
finally found something that was wrong with it, and that was the cost of doing it.
Okay, well, that's good to know. The other thing is with the street lines, are they all done on that corner of your?
That borough, that was taken out of the police department when we had the change.
Okay.
So the borough crew, Shane's taking care of that.
Yeah, that's complete.
It's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chief,
I'm done.
So when you look at the routine patrol numbers are way down, is that because the training numbers are up?
Yeah, people tend to be out. We're also, we have 2 people in training right now, so there's a field training officer with them as well, so that's one less person out driving. So that takes away some of that time. It's prime vacation year, so we have people that are taking off right now. So a lot of that goes into play with.
Chief, with the county abatement team coming back, will they spray paint over the traffic control box at Penn and Clayton?
It's on the list. When they get to it, I don't know, but yes. I think what they're gonna try to do is clean put those.
Yeah, I didn't know whether they paint those or.
Yeah, they usually clean those, but it is on, they've been notified of that, it's just till they get back. We're not the only people that ask. As I understand, us and West Reading are 2 communities that use them the most, but others do.
Did we end up trying to help store some of their equipment, or did that go away?
I don't know if it's on the way.
I talked to Kevin Barnhart about that this morning. Bob from some division of the graffiti team is supposed to be contacting me by the end of the week. If he doesn't, I'm supposed to circle back to Kevin.
He's on probation.
That's
But
right.
that's fun out.
Bless you.
Where to store the 20 screwdrivers?
On a side note, last week I spent about an hour meeting with West Reading's new chief. Spoke to him about the cooperation our 2 agencies have had over the years, but just helping each other on assignments and training. He used an agreement that he'd like to see that continue. Take him to lunch on Friday, so I want to build that relationship with him and make sure that that does happen. progress there.
I'll buy you lunch at the Spruce. No, I can't do that anymore.
That's where we are gonna go. I said you have to
Not free anymore.
Yeah, you got five.
So I was, I'm taking
Anything else to the chief? All right, all those in favor of accepting the police chief and mayor's report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Fire commissioners report, Bill.
Okay, the commissioners report for the month of June. Wyomissing Fire Department responded to 128 calls for service. Of those, 78 were within the borough limits. 20 of those were fire calls, 49 EMS calls, 45 alarm activations. Fire damage for the month was $95,000. And total responses year to date, 760.
Any questions on the fire commissioner's report? All those in favor of accepting that report, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it. Next item is the rec board. How about you, Dan?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
The rec board met on June 9th for a regular monthly meeting. And as you can see from the minutes, pretty much 100% of that was devoted to the 4th of July parade and celebration. We thankfully were able to do pretty much every event that we would normally do in a kind of quote normal year. I think that the rec board and the volunteers did a wonderful job, making this happen, pulling this off. We had an amazing turnout. The chief and I were actually just talking about that earlier before the meeting. We probably had in excess of 8,000 to 9,000 people, most likely more, judging on the amount of flags that we gave out. I wanted to kind of just recognize, the staff that we had, help, again, the rec board, we had several special meetings, special planning meetings, in about the month leading up to the parade. We had 25 playground staff on hand, 2 parks and rec staff, 2 public works staff, and a number of lifeguards at the pool for the pool events after the celebration. We had about 40 participants and vendors. Those were the ones that needed to register, a float, a classic car, the vendors down at the Stone House. So it seemed like it was a really good event. So again, thank you. I just want to publicly recognize all the people that were there and that helped out. They did a fantastic job. Our playground program, we have, this year on top of our normal events that we would do, our extra events at the playground, we started planning some special events that will be going on during the night time, the night playground. So we started out with a movie night on Saturday night. This coming Thursday, we're going to be doing carnival night, and this is open to all registered participants and their family. And then the next week, we're going to be doing a corkball tournament. We're going to do a talent show, and then the last event will be prom. So I think the kids will get a kick out of that. We've also had a couple, like I said, we've had some of the normal, kind of the yearly visits, and one being the fire department, who came last week. The police department, who started at the Hills today and talked to the children about, getting, familiar with the police and making them feel comfortable with the police. And a few weeks back, we had the Tower Health Trauma Department, along with the Pennsylvania State Police and the Safe Kids of Berks County Coalition, and they spoke with the kids about concussion awareness, helmet safety, and they actually had several helmets, that we handed out to kids that didn't have. These special events that I kind of mentioned, we are that doesn't happen without a little bit of help, and we have received quite a bit of help, financially, and I wanted to recognize those businesses and organizations that have helped us with this and made these special events possible. And the first one is Hartman Ballerino, McGovern and Lutz, and they donated $1,500. Greatly appreciate that. Craft Code Services donated $1,000. And previously recognized Lawrence Foundation, who donated $2,500. We split that with the police department. And then lastly, the Wyomissing Hills Citizen Social Committee, who has donated $300 to the playground program and another $300 to our movie in the park. And then kind of our revenue, I just wanted to quickly point out the last thing. Our total revenue for programs so far this year is at $141,000. That's down about $27,000 from 2019. We're obviously not completely through the season, and I think kind of recovering, from a pandemic, that's probably a pretty good number. I think there still are people that are a little concerned, that kind of get involved with these recreation programs, excuse me. So I think that's not a good number, and the reason I kind of point that out, I think that gives a good picture that people are, excited to get back out into our community and get, enjoy the recreation program that we have here. We're very lucky to have the support from all of you, that we're able to continue these programs every year. So that's pretty much it for me. And anybody have any questions?
This is a general blend of both of these reports?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Just a general blend of both of these meetings, or?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just a second.
I was down at the pool the other day, and it looks great.
Thank you.
And it really looks great. And I was talking with a person I presume was in charge. He was busy. They're swimming. He's telling them what to do.
Yeah.
He said there's 103 people on the swim team.
Yeah.
Pretty big number. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're we've had days where there's like pool pack. And there's actually moonlight swim tonight. So, continuing with programs. That was very well attended. The last one was very well attended. So,
Dan, you properly highlighted and thanked a lot of people that helped out with the 4th of July, but I think you need to be acknowledged as well. You did a tremendous job for a difficult year, and it was your first rodeo down there. I'm telling you, you did a great job.
well, thank you. I wouldn't have done it without all the help. And my apologies, if I could just add, I had a ton of support from the admin staff here. Actually, I probably had the most support from them, but they particularly helped me. I apologize to them for not mentioning them. They were a huge help to me. I would not have done it without them, and I mean that. So, thank you to them.
Thank you, Dan. Any other comments for the rec board? All right, we've got two, so if, first one will be accepting the report for the June 9th meeting, which was a special meeting. All those in favor of accepting that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the next one is their regular meeting on June 15th, 2021. All those in favor of accepting that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much, Dan. Board, Wyomissing Library.
Yes, hello everyone, good evening. The library board met on June 14th, via Zoom still. Just a couple things to highlight. The board president had expressed some concern about some cosmetic repairs that needed to be done in the children's area of the library. I believe the painter was contacted and that is happening, if not this week, then very soon.
Yes, we're waiting on a confirmation to get back to the meeting. They have some contract on it.
So I think that's been resolved. A couple sort of notes on fundraising efforts. The Derby Party that I had mentioned last week, the amount that they raised was about $15,000, and that there was some that were interested in knowing that amount. So I would let you know. Also, the duck race on the 4th of July. Thank you, Dan, for all your borough's help in helping. Thanks to Bill and his wife for all the work that they did on behalf of the library for that. That earned about $2,300, so that was very successful this year. The next event is going to be a community event. It's the summer block party, and they decided on August 14th for the date for that. So
No? Okay, we met on June 15th, and one item there for public discussion, and actually later on in the manager's report, has to do with the fire technician position. The test was administered, 5 candidates advanced, the oral interview for June 24th, and that process is complete. And I might as well just put it in here now. And I will make a motion that the council have the civil service certify the list of candidates for that position.
And a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
And that's all I have for that. That's it.
Yep. Any other questions for the personnel committee? All those in favor of accepting that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. And next is economic development, John.
Well, can you get me to the resolutions part? Okay, the Shell is gonna investigate businesses on Penn Avenue in Wyomissing, determined if they have an interest in the Main Street project, which we would do in conjunction with West Reading. The will of the committee was to gauge the interest and recommend to council that we anticipate a report by soon.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it.
So, do we need a motion about the graffiti? John had mentioned it earlier.
That was just to send a letter, official letter to the commissioners, but I think probably the date here.
Do you wanna send a letter thanking the county for restarting the program? Do you think that would be appropriate, Chief?
It's a good idea.
Yeah, we can get a motion.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
So then we have another motion for an additional motion, which we just got yesterday, about a Wyomissing West Reading grant application to DCED funding for planning, design, engineering for streetscape improvements, street lights, sidewalks, signage, Penn Avenue and Wyomissing, West Reading, and Hill Avenue and Wyomissing, Reading Avenue and West Reading. If we get the grant, there will be no match required, and the grant is up to $1 million. So I would make that motion that the council adopts that motion.
Objection, Mr. President.
Yeah,
Was this
this-
advertised for as required? He said we just got this.
It's a resolution, not an ordinance.
This is just a resolution.
Got it.
Just a
Right.
regular grant application.
Okay. Do you want me to read the preamble of this?
Go ahead.
Okay, this is Resolution 2021-15. This is a resolution of the Council of the Borough of Wyomissing, Berks County, Pennsylvania, taking authorized official action and requesting Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development Multimodal Transportation Funding Grant. And John has made that motion with a
And
second.
what can that be used for? What does multimodal transportation mean?
So this is a planning grant, so it's specific for planning, design, and engineering for streetscape improvements in West Reading and Wyomissing. It's a joint grant between the two municipalities.
Do we have our legislators on board and our
We have-
lobbyists?
Our lobbyists, yes. Our legislators, I strongly suspect, will be once we actually submit and start coordinating outreach.
Okay, we have a motion, a second?
Second.
A motion, a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, John. That's all I have. Okay, any questions for economic development? All those in favor of accepting that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Fire and police, Bill.
Okay, Fire and Police Committee met on June the 28th, and I just wanted to mention one thing under public comments. We did have a comment from Tammy Swiger, as it did relate to public safety and other issues. About the concern of the parking, and through cooperation of the police department, Michelle, and fire and police committee in general, through extensive studies, investigations, we've reached a responsible resolution to this, in which Ms. Swigert was very pleased, and with the outcome, and she mentioned at the meeting that she would go back and tell her neighbors of the seriousness that we took this issue, and you will see the results of that as I continue this report. We'll address that to everyone. In addition to the fire department's monthly report, that 2 smoke detectors were installed. And the average response time leaving the station from call was 1 minute and 54 seconds, well below the NFPA regulations. Average time on scene was 20 minutes and 32 seconds. The status of the tower, it's currently at 10-8 emergency vehicle services. 2 representatives from Seagrave Manufacturing have been there. They've assessed the situation and awaiting parts to make the proper repairs. Once that is finally repaired and placed back in service, then the tower will be going out for some warranty work. Under Western Berks Ambulance, there were a total of 284 calls for service that Western responded to. Okay, the Chief Phillips reported that the body and vehicle cameras have been ordered, and they take 6 to 8 weeks to arrive. And then until the installation and training is complete, they'll be placed in service in approximately 10 weeks. Okay. Going back to discussing the parking issues, the committee is making a recommendation to authorize the solicitor to prepare an ordinance, which he has done, to make Holy Street one-way heading east and Greenwich Street one-way heading west with parking on both sides. Just going to read the ordinance.
Yeah, you could read the title and consider a motion to authorize advertising the ordinance.
Okay, committee would like to make a recommendation for council's approval regarding ordinance 1422-2021, an ordinance of the Borough of Wyomissing, Berks County, Pennsylvania, amending the Wyomissing Borough Code of Ordinances to establish additional one-way streets. And as I've stated, that is Oley Street from Park to North 4th Street, heading east, Greenwich Street from North 4th Street to Park Road, heading west. And I will make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
That'll be that.
That's advertised.
To expedite the order of one-way streets, and while the ordinance is being advertised. The committee is making a recommendation, this would be under resolution number 2021, to recommend to council, the mayor issue a temporary emergency proclamation to make Oley Street one-way heading east and Greenwich Street one-way heading west until the ordinance to permanently change both streets to one-way is adopted.
And this will not be a mayoral emergency declaration, it'll be a resolution of council for an experimental traffic regulation. And the reason for that is that the mayoral emergency proclamation would only be good for 72 hours, something like that, under the Wyomissing code. Whereas the council, by adopting this resolution, it can be in effect for up to 90 days. Plenty of time for the ordinance to be enacted. So my recommendation would be to adopt the resolution.
And that is resolution number 2021-14, a resolution of the council of the Borough of Wyomissing, Berks County, Pennsylvania, authorizing experimental traffic regulations pursuant to the code of the Borough of Wyomissing, Chapter 15, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Part 1, entitled General Regulations, Section 105, entitled Experimental Regulations, to establish one-way streets on Oley and on Greenwood Street for up to 90 days. And I will make that motion.
A second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay, we have a, Chief Phillips presented a request from a resident asking for a handicap parking space permit on the 1800 block of Franklin Street. 800, I'm sorry, Franklin Street. And I will make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, and lastly, as we alluded, that Mr. and Mrs. Phil Wolf have donated the monies for the police department, video cameras, and for the personal body cameras. And I have a resolution that I would like to propose. Resolution number 2021-12. A resolution of the Council of the Borough of Wyomissing, Berks County, Pennsylvania, accepting a gift and expressing appreciation for the donation from Philip D. and Joanne L. Wolf. I will make that motion.
A second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
And that's all I have.
Any questions for the Fire and Police Committee? All those in favor of accepting that report as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Infrastructure, Tom.
Okay. The committee met on June 28th. Our business concerns here under water, water main replacement. We have, the committee is recommending the council to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $6,244 to Barrasso Excavating for the final restoration work. This is for the water main replacement on Monroe Avenue. And I'll make that motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Councilmember Boucher?
Yes.
Councilmember Woodward?
Yes.
Councilmember Jenks?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember Durr?
Yes.
And Council President Wong?
Yes.
Okay, the other thing in regard to this project was the final payment application number 1 for final payment application in the amount of $138,964 to Barrasso Excavating for that completed work, and I will make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second, and roll call, please, Melissa.
Councilmember Boucher?
Yes?
Councilmember Woodward?
Yes.
Councilmember Jenks?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember
Yes.
Okay, under the next page, under streets, just a question here, I know we've moved ahead with the sidewalk repairs, are they in process with that, Jim, yet, or?
No, I would suspect they'll be starting in the next couple of weeks, would be my guess.
Okay, that's all been taken care of from our standpoint, I was just wondering what.
Yeah,
when
there's
that-
still some final paperwork that we got today.
Really?
Um,
Yeah, I know, and I know you keep saying too, and I've had several other people approach me about, can I get that done? So I don't know, I think next year they should really consider having that in the budget again. There's a lot of people have paid attention to it, and although it doesn't cure all of our sidewalk ills, it certainly takes care of a lot of them anyway. So anyway, just a quick comment on that. Under streets also, the 4th Street extension, payment application number 8 in the amount of $253,345.94 to Barber's Construction. The committee is recommending that that be paid, and I will make that motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Councilmember Boucher?
Yes.
Councilmember Woodward?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
Yes.
Councilmember Durr?
Yes.
And Council President Wong?
Yes.
Okay, and jump down to the bottom there, the Wyomissing Creek pedestrian bridge, which we've had some comment on earlier, is nearly complete and will be complete hopefully by tomorrow. For that temporary repair there, which a lot of people will be very happy to be able to walk across there. I did go down there today also to take a look, and it turns out the guy who's doing the welding was a student of mine that kind of reminds me of I got the special tour, I guess. He reminded me that he was in my class, history class, the day of 9/11. He said, so that's how I'll never forget me or that event. It was that day. But anyway, so he a younger guy, Degler, I don't know if you know him.
Oh, yeah, I've been out there talking to him.
Yeah, did a nice job.
I was talking to them too, they are doing a good job.
Yeah, and they were very accommodating with what they're doing, so that's nice.
Yeah, he liked the fact that people, he said normally no one comes and looks at what a welder does.
Yeah, no, he showed all the little spots that he was working on. It was good. Okay, the committee at the time, had decided that we needed the emergency repair, I guess we'll call it, well, that's what it is, emergency repair, and that we wanted to keep the price down, it was $30,000 or less, and gave a number of, I guess, was 23, correct?
23,000 and change with a $4,000 allotment for any excess materials when they pull it apart.
Right, so although there's no final bill to be paid there, we have to make a motion that that was formally done. Okay, then I need to ratify the fact that the committee reviewed the scope of work and shared the proposal with the finance committee, who gave a nod of approval there. And so I will make a motion for that approval, is that what the state? Okay, to do that work.
And
At
it is
that price.
Emergency.
on an emergency basis, therefore we didn't bid it.
Okay. And it's definitely an emergency, there's no question. I'll make that motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Boucher?
Yes.
Councilmember Woodward?
Yes.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett?
Yes.
Councilmember Durr?
Yes.
And Council President Wong?
Yes.
And, excuse me, and the item where the committee was gonna recommend executing an agreement, we had asked that that be tabled. There has been some other information, I guess, we'll go over.
Yeah, well, there's been some legislative changes, and we want to make sure that that agreement is in compliance with those new regulations.
Okay, so I'm gonna table that recommendation, and I guess we'll bring it up next time in the instruction.
Sure.
Okay, in addition to that, I have a resolution here for the resolution 2021-13, that has to do with well, I'll read it, a resolution of the Council of the Borough of Wyomissing authorizing the borough manager to sign and submit a traffic signal maintenance agreement and related documents with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation on behalf of the Borough of Wyomissing. And what the details of that agreement are, that it gives us a chance to work together with them.
What happens is, PennDOT wants the municipalities to have this agreement in place, because currently, every time we do any modification to a signal or anything to do with a signalized intersection, we have to get this agreement signed. So they're trying to get this blanket agreement together with every municipality. So moving forward, if we do anything, we don't have to go in and adopt
You can just go
that
ahead.
agreement every time.
Okay, and that's what the resolution is, and I will make that motion.
A motion, second? Second.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it.
And I think that's all, unless we have the graffiti thing there, and I don't know, any other comments about that other grant there, Michelle?
No, other than it's gonna be discussed at Park and Shade next.
We'll start it through the kind of the chain
Yes.
review, is it?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess that's all.
Okay. Any other questions for infrastructure? All those in favor of accepting that report, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it. Planning Commission, John.
Okay, we got a lot going on here. It's hard to read to most people because I can read this one a little better. Yeah, the first thing is the 19th State Hill Road preliminary final development plan.
We have, John, gotten the time extension granted to the borough, so we do not need to deny the plan, we just need to accept the time extension.
Okay, I move we accept the time of extension.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it.
Okay, the next few, or more than a few items, have to deal with Wyomissing Hills Elementary Center. And the first one is the waiving the saldo requirements for scale requirements. We do this every time, Jim. Why isn't there a standard we can use?
Well, when we do the revisions to the saldo, we're gonna put basically all of the standard accepted scale,
Okay,
but we haven't gotten to the saldo revisions yet.
gotcha.
Before you get that, there's a motion before that to allow them to submit a joint preliminary final plan and not have to do the preliminary.
I just took notes, I should probably print it out going forward. Just the first motion. Okay, so I recommend to council grant Wyomissing School District a waiver from the saldo ordinance. For those people that don't know what saldo means, it's subdivision and land development ordinance. The requirements to submit a preliminary plan and a final plan, and the waiver from the stormwater management ordinances as to loading ratios, conditional upon the submission of current load ratios, the completed geologist report, and the NPDES. What does that mean?
National Pollution Discharge Elimination System.
Yeah, I knew that. From a technical review by the applicant. On the applicant's submission, Borough Engineer Jim McCarthy is responsible for making the final approval or denial for the waivers based on his review.
Did you get that stuff?
No, not all of it, partial.
So, I think the motion is still appropriate as the committee discussed.
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it.
So the next one is the saldo waiver. I move that we recommend council grant the Wyomissing School District the waiver from the saldo ordinance architectural scale requirements. I so move.
Second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay. next one is,
And size requirements.
I move that we recommend council grant a conditional final plan approval, subject to all review comments from McCarthy Engineering review letter dated May 27th. I so move.
I think we skipped the architectural plan size requirements, which is different than the architectural scale requirements.
Okay. Can we do this now since I already moved it?
Technically, we should do the waivers before the plan approval.
Okay. I move that we recommend council grant the Wyomissing School District a waiver from the subdivision land division development ordinance architectural plan size requirements. I so move.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Go ahead, John.
Okay, next. Recommend council grant conditional final plan approval, subject to all review comments of McCarthy's Engineering review letter dated May 27th, 2021. I so move.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay. Now we're moving on to the Wyomissing Senior High waiver, which they're going to have a small addition onto their cafeteria. I recommend the council grant approval of waiver request to allow the project to not be required to comply with the formal land development requirements of the borough based on the successful completion of all review comments of McCarthy Engineering's review letter dated May 19th, 2021, and the review from the Berks County Planning Commission. And I so move.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Go, John.
This is on Highlands.
Oh, yeah, we moved to the Highlands now. The Highlands wants to convert a barn there down on Old Wyomissing Road into 4 apartments. In his background, there's a big tree in front of it, which if you followed strictly the requirements of the zoning ordinances, you'd have to cut the tree down. We don't want to cut the tree down, but it's not really our call, but we're gonna make a recommendation to the zoning hearing board to let it go. It's just off by a couple. Okay. So I recommend council grant the Highlands the waivers from the Saldo for the requirements to submit as a preliminary and a final plan, and I so move.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
It's just intended our architectural scale.
Okay. I recommend council grant the Highlands the waiver from the subdivision and land development ordinance architectural scale requirements. And I so move.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay. I recommend council grant the Highlands the waiver from the Saldo ordinances to allow 190-degree on-street parking space along Yale Song Drive. And I so move.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Further, I recommend council grant the Highlands a waiver from the Saldo stormwater management ordinances to allow a TRM line spillway in lieu of concrete, and I so move. And the TRM is.
Turf reinforced matting.
Yeah, I knew that too. I so move.
You have a second? Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, I recommend council grant the Highlands the waiver from the stormwater management ordinance as to allow the use of various soil components and grass to pull the water underground, and I so move.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. ayes have it.
Okay, I recommend council grant conditional final plan approval, subject to all review comments and McCarthy Engineering's review letter dated June 8, 2021, and the variance approval from the zoning hearing board, and I so move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, I recommend the zoning hearing board grant the variance to preserve the large sycamore tree on the Highlands Barn property and require the Highlands to provide additional vegetation screening between the Highlands Park barn parking lot and the Borough of Wyomissing trail system. I so move.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Is that it?
That's it, John.
Thanks. I was trying to save paper, not print it out. I'm over it now.
Any questions for the planning commission?
I just have one, I don't know, I guess a comment is, we give approval to the things that we don't have like a final on here. You know, and I know the people that we have are doing a good job with that, but I would think that we should see final things before, you know, they come to our vote all the time.
One of the planning commission members brought up that exact point, and it seems that we've done it quite frequently in the past. And you're right, we have to trust the people that are doing the work, you know, where the rubber hits the road. And a couple of these projects, they want to get moving on them, and I want them to get moving. So just to put them to bed, and I think it'll all be an enhancement to the community, so I don't see anything that's controversial.
I think that your staff and consultants are keeping good track of all of these conditions. I'm confident that you're getting a good result. But I think another important point is how user-friendly the borough is as a regulatory agency as to these development projects. And, you know, what happens here in the borough is these projects get through in, 4 to 6 months, and in a lot of other communities, it might take a year because of the kind of bureaucratic process that is possible. If you don't grant conditional approvals, it takes months longer. And the waivers are also part of facilitating progress for projects.
I would like to comment.
The other thing is if they're like waiting for outside agency approvals, then Michelle has to track separately that timeline, because if we don't have an extension and don't take action, then they have a deemed approval and plan how it was last submitted with open comments. So that conditional approval protects you on the timeline of the MPC time clock for approval.
And I turn around and return the compliment to Mr. McCarthy that the way the review letters are drafted, it's very easy to go through them and figure out what's outstanding and what isn't. That once PC and council grant conditional plan approval, and we have a built-in checklist of they need to resubmit and meet X, Y, and Z.
And then we typically issue a letter that says now all of our comments have been addressed, and then there's usually legal documents that Chris has to do at that point, when we then say they're just the legal documents opposed to escrow or remaining.
And I think our commitment to move things along, I don't think we ever would have gotten the whole Equus VF development project if we didn't assure them that we were gonna make things move along. We had joint council, planning commission meetings, and, well, first of all, they were really good to deal with. And when they said they'd do something, unlike a lot of developers, they did it. So, and look what we got, and there's still more on the horizon. So, that's all I have.
Any questions from planning? All those in favor of accepting the report, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it. Finance administration, Keith.
Well, John gets into all the fun stuff, all we do is these boring numbers. Finance committee met on July 8th. Barry Keck and Ron Bittner from Gerard Paving Services were here to give us their annual review for 2020 as well as recommendations going forward. The short story is we're in really good shape based on the contributions that the borough has made and the results of a pretty good stock market. They went through all of the various funds that the pension funds are invested in, all of which are having 13, 14, 15% returns. Based on that, all of our pension funds, it's good to report all of our pension funds are fully funded. In fact, some of them are overfunded at this point. We're over 100% in some cases. They also went back then and went through the actuaries' projections based on the mortality rates and so on, and gave the committee various scenarios as to which ones to choose, as to how to adjust it. And the committee unanimously decided that we were going to recommend to council that we take the lower amounts in all cases to reduce the amount of dollars that we need to contribute to the funds because we're so well funded and their projections, we should continue to be so. Last year we budgeted and had to contribute in 2021 just under $750,000 to the 3 different pension funds, and based on their recommendations and their actuary reports, we were probably going to be able to reduce that number down to about $300,000 to $350,000 this year. However, I did ask the guys from the pension funds, what do they do? And if you'll recall, and Greg certainly knows, because the market was down at the end of 19 when it was reevaluated, the borough took a huge hit, an unexpected hit, because they had to quickly fund those funds to maintain the ratios, to increase the contributions. So a lot of the boroughs and a lot of the municipalities he represents and does investing for, puts together somewhat of a rainy day fund in some cases. So when we go to do our budgeting for 2022, it'll be our recommendation that even though we can reduce the number significantly, probably half, maybe have a little bit of rainy day fund put aside, so that if we have an end of year issue again, that we won't have that big hit to income and surprise. So based on their recommendations, and the committee is recommending, and I'll make the motion to council that we update the mortality rate to reduce the long-term interest rate from 7.5 down to 7% projections, and the salary scale from 4.5 to 4.0%, which will reduce the necessity for the contributions from the borough.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
We also,
Okay, before you go on, I think it should be announced that the motion that was just adopted by council has no impact on the benefits that the borough is obligated to pay to beneficiaries of the pension plans.
Correct.
The motion only impacts the investment of the funds.
correct, yeah, it doesn't affect the dollars, and it just maintains the level of ratio funding at a lower rate so that we don't need to contribute more to the fund. But you're right, yeah. We're also, the Finance Committee is also recommending council that they approve the GASB 67 reports for the defined contribution and defined benefit pension plans for fire and non-uniform police, and the GASB 67 report for the police defined benefit pension plan, and they accept Gerard's report. Also move that.
Second?
GASB.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Ayes have it. Go ahead.
Phyllis also gave us a cash update. Unfortunately, interest rates are near nil. We do have one $2 million CD that was placed earlier in the year at 0.0045%. It looks like in most cases, CD rates are now even below our regular ICS account. So the Finance Committee is making a recommendation to council that we allow Phyllis Smith, the business manager, that if in case the CD rates are below the ICS account, not to renew the CDs, but to move the money into the ICS account. Also make that motion.
Second? So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it.
Phyllis also gave us reports on the tax revenues, the revenues coming in, and when you analyze them, we're pretty much on target as to either compared to 2019, discounting 2020 because we had a lot of timing issues. So when you compare them to 2019, we're pretty much right spot on. They do appear to be higher revenue coming in with less expenditures going out, but that's purely a timing issue. Once we start on a lot of the infrastructure projects, that's going to change. Also, some of those dollars are coming in early. The only highlights of the revenue is the $341,000 we got from the Equus transaction, $53,000 from the Crown Plaza, and the good news is that we did in fact get a little bit more from the federal government through the COVID, whatever they're calling it. Our contribution was $556,579, which is now parked in a reserve account in the general fund. The bad news is we still don't know how to spend it. We don't really know what to do with it. You know, it's unfortunate. We'd love to be able to figure out where we can move it to, but there's just no real guidance yet. So we're sitting on $556,000, and unless, Michelle, nothing else changed, we still don't have any new information. We can close it down.
There was new additional information that literally came out this afternoon that I've not had a chance to read through,
Okay.
but
So that's the good news is we have the dollars. The bad news is we don't know where we can put it. It would really be nice if we can, since we did defer a lot of the infrastructure projects for Jim from last year. It'd be great if we could really use it for infrastructure and move some of it towards that and set it aside, but at this point, we just can't do that. I think that's all the, Chris, that was all the motions we needed, right?
Yes.
So that's the finance report.
Any questions for finance? All those in favor of accepting the report, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it. Manager's report.
Yes, sir. The Detroit Municipal Authority and the Board Authority meeting minutes are in your electronic package for your review. And we received information from the police regarding possible negotiations for the collective bargaining agreement for 2022. I'd like council to authorize the personnel committee to establish a collective bargaining agreement negotiations at their meeting on July 20th.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it.
And that's really all I have to raise the item for public.
Okay. Any questions for manager? All those in favor of accepting the report, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it. Next is the treasurer's statement of operation for the general fund, the Bureau of Water, the sewer fund, Highway 8, refuse and recycling, and the road tax fund. Greg?
I did the same thing John did. I wrote down notes instead of putting out, killing the trees, and then I left them at work. So you went up on me, John. You did a good job.
Do you want to
Anyway,
run your report?
I think between everybody, I think Keith did a great job going through some of the variances. He mentioned some of the larger variances, the positive variances we have. That's all what I want to cover. Again, I said this last time, I'll say it again, please look through these reports. There are a lot of detail in there. You can tell there are variances for the month, for the year to date, and here's a new budget, so those papers aren't in there just to help, stabilize an uneven table. So, I apologize, I didn't bring my stuff along, so, but I think everything was covered in the other committee meetings.
All those in favor of accepting that report, please signify by saying aye. Ayes have it. Next is we have the accounts payable for the general fund, the Bureau of Water, the sewer fund, refuse and recycling fund, all the bills we paid last month. Any questions on those? All those in favor of accepting that report, please signify by saying aye. Okay, and the next is the tax collector's report. Betsy?
Well, Mr. Durr stole my thunder. Didn't Fred warn you about
I'm
me?
sorry.
I do not.
No, he's not, Betsy.
But as Mr. Durr said, as of the end of June, I collected over $143,000 more than last year at this time. And you're also right that it was still a little bit less than 2019, although we also had more properties, so. There's my report.
Okay, thank you, Betsy. All those in favor of accepting the tax collector's report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Last item of business we have on the agenda is I'd like someone to make a motion to modify our agenda for the council meeting for the first public comment, which is item number 4 on our list, to be for things that we are going to vote on during this meeting, during the current meeting. And then adding an additional agenda item at number 14 at the end for public comment on anything from past issues that somebody wants to bring up. Somebody willing to put that on the table?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Any other business to be brought before council this evening? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Stand adjourned.
I